Wordy Talks. Learn English, change your life.
Most English learners understand English, but when it's time to speak, they freeze. It's like the words are somewhere in your mind, but they just don't come out. And that can feel really frustrating, especially when you've studied for a long time. So today on Wordy Talks, we're going to talk about something very important. We're going to show you how to learn English through real-life situations, not just textbooks.
Yeah, and honestly, this is something I feel strongly about because a lot of learners spend years studying grammar, memorizing rules, and doing exercises, but then in a real conversation, they feel nervous or stuck. It's like your brain suddenly stops working. And the reason is simple. You learned English in a very controlled environment, not in real natural situations.
Exactly. And let's be clear, we're not saying textbooks are bad. They can be helpful, especially at the beginning. But they often teach English that is too formal or not very natural. Formal means very polite and correct, but not how people usually speak every day. In real life, people use shorter sentences, simple words, and sometimes even incomplete sentences.
That's such a good point. For example, textbooks might teach you something like, how do you do? But in real life, people just say, hey, how are you? Or even just, hey. Sometimes it's even less than that. And if you only learn textbook English, you might sound a bit unnatural. Not wrong, but just not how people usually speak.
And that's why real-life situations are so important. When you learn English through situations, you learn what people actually say. You learn the rhythm, the tone, and the feeling behind the words. Tone means the way your voice sounds, like friendly, serious, or excited. And all of that helps you communicate better.
So today, we're going to go through some real-life situations together. We'll talk about what people usually say and how you can use simple English to communicate clearly. And don't worry, you don't need perfect grammar. You just need to be understood. That's the goal.
Yes, communication is the goal, not perfection. So let's start with a very common situation, ordering coffee. Almost everyone has done this at some point. So Leo, imagine you walk into a cafe. What do you say?
Okay, so I walk in, I smile, and I say, "Hi, can I get a coffee, please?" That's it. Simple. You don't need a long sentence. And if they ask anything else, you can just say, "No, that's all, thanks." It's very short, very natural.
That's perfect. And I like that you said, can I get, instead of something more complicated. Can I get is very common in everyday English. It just means you want to receive something, and it sounds friendly and natural. You could also say, I'd like a coffee, which is also very common.
Yeah, and notice something important. We're not using complicated grammar here. We're using short, clear sentences. That's what people do in real life. When you're in a cafe, you don't want to think too much. You just want to communicate quickly.
Exactly. Now let's move to another situation. Small talk. This is something many learners find difficult. Small talk means light, casual conversation about simple topics, like the weather or your day. So Leo, if you meet someone, what might you say?
I might say, "Hey, how's your day going?" That's a very natural question. And the other person might say, "Pretty good, just a bit busy," or "Not bad, how about you?" It's a simple exchange, but it helps you connect.
And I love that phrase, not bad. It means things are okay, not amazing, but not terrible either. It's very common in English. And notice again, these are short answers. You don't need long explanations. You can keep it simple.
Yeah, imagine someone asks, "How are you?" and you give a 5-minute answer. That would be a bit strange. In real life, people expect short, quick responses. Then, if the conversation continues, you can add more details.
That's a really good point. Now let's talk about another situation. Work. This is very important for many learners. At work, you often need to communicate clearly and quickly. So Leo, what's something you might say at work?
Maybe something like, "I'll send you that later." This is very common. It means you will send something, like an email or a file, after some time. Or you could say, "Let me check and get back to you." That means you will find the information and respond later.
Yes, and get back to you is a great phrase. It means to reply or answer later. It's very useful in professional situations. And again, it's simple. You don't need complicated words to sound professional.
Exactly. And actually, wait, this is a good moment to pause for a second.
we've used some really useful phrases already. Emma, you mentioned small talk, get back to you, and tone. Maybe we can explain those a bit more clearly.
Yes, let's do that. So, small talk is light, casual conversation about everyday topics. It's not deep or serious, just a way to be friendly. For example, talking about the weather or your weekend plans. It helps you start a conversation.
And get back to you means to respond later. For example, I'll get back to you tomorrow. It's very common at work or in professional situations. It shows that you will respond, but not immediately.
And tone, like we said earlier, is the way your voice sounds. It can change the meaning of what you say. For example, you can say okay in a happy tone or in an angry tone, and it feels very different.
That's so true, and understanding tone is really important in real-life communication. Okay, let's go back to our situations. Now let's talk about something more social, spending time with friends.
Yes, this is a fun one. So, Leo, if you want to invite a friend to do something, what might you say?
I might say, hey, do you want to hang out this weekend? It's very casual and friendly. Hang out means to spend time together in a relaxed way. You're not doing anything special, just being together.
I love that phrase. It's so natural. And the other person might say, yeah, sounds good. Or, I'm free on Saturday. Sounds good means you like the idea. It's a very common response.
Yeah, and if you're busy, you could say, I'm a bit busy this weekend, maybe next time. That's polite and clear. You're saying no, but in a friendly way.
Exactly. Now let's move to one more situation. Asking for help. This is something everyone needs to do sometimes. So, Leo, how would you ask for help in English?
I would say, excuse me, can you help me? That's a great, simple sentence. Then you can add your question, like, I'm looking for the train station. Looking for means trying to find something.
Yes, and excuse me is very polite. It's a way to get someone's attention. You can use it in many situations. And again, we see the same pattern, simple, clear, and natural.
And I think this is the big lesson from today. You don't need complicated English to communicate. You need simple phrases that people actually use. That's what real-life English is about.
I completely agree. And I think it's also important to talk about how you feel when you speak. Many learners feel nervous or afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are a normal part of learning.
Yes, absolutely. If you wait until your English is perfect, you will never speak. And that's a problem, because speaking is how you improve. You have to practice, even if it's not perfect.
Exactly. And instead of focusing on perfection, focus on communication. Ask yourself, can the other person understand me? If the answer is yes, then you're doing great.
That's such a good way to think about it. And honestly, even native speakers make mistakes sometimes, so you don't need to worry too much. Just keep going.
So before we finish, let's give our listeners a small challenge. Try to describe your day in English, just a few sentences. For example, I woke up at 8 a.m., I had coffee, and I went to work. That's enough.
Yes, and you can even speak out loud. It might feel a bit strange at first, but it really helps. The more you practice, the more comfortable you become. Comfortable means you feel relaxed and confident.
And if you can, try to use some of the phrases we talked about today, like hang out, get back to you, or can I get? These are real phrases that people use every day.
And before we go, we just want to say, if you are enjoying these conversations here on Wordy Talks, it would mean so much to us if you hit that subscribe button. We put out new episodes every week, and we would love to have you back.
Thank you so much for listening today. We hope this episode helped you feel more confident speaking English in real-life situations. Keep practicing, keep it simple, and remember, it's okay to make mistakes.
See you next time on Wordy Talks. Take care, keep learning, and have a great day. Bye.
Wordy Talks. Learn English, change your life.